Anytime? Good. Good evening. We'll call the meeting to order. We've had a couple of regrets. We have Councillor D'Entremont and Deputy Warden Albright send their regrets. We've all, as we do all the time, if there's an invitation to stand and move around, anybody who needs to stand. We have an agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda? Seeing none, the agenda stands approved as presented. Conflict of interest declaration can be done now if there's any item on the agenda that you feel you have a conflict, or you can wait if it comes up and you feel that you should have, and then you can do it at that time. So we have a presentation. We have a presentation from Yarmouth Curling Association. There's an attachment. We have, I don't know if one or two or three are going to be presenting. There's seats here. Now, what I'm going to ask is to turn your mic on. Now, if we have too many mics on, I'm wondering if we have the one in the center, if it'll work for all three, because if we turn more than one, you're going to have a lot of feedback. So if we turn that one on, I'm going to have presenter left, and I'm going to turn his off. Oops. So the floor is yours, whoever.
Thank you, Warden.
This mic's not on.
I wanted that mic on so that
Okay.
maybe we can
That should work.
Okay.
try it.
Warden and council and staff, thank you very much for giving us time this evening on your agenda to present for the Yarmouth Curling Club. And we've been to the other two councils to inform you, but before we get in depth, I'd like for my colleague Aaron to go through the proposal with you, and then any questions you have, we'd be glad to try to answer them. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you. So, of course, we have Richard Hurlbert here, and this is Charles Bork. Brought them along today, and I'm Aaron Sweeney. So, according to our what we've forwarded on, hopefully everybody's had a chance to that they've received this. The Yarmouth Curling Club, along with its arena, is more than just a recreational spot. It's a vital asset for our community. Facility plays a key role in attracting and retaining professionals like doctors and other essential workers who are crucial for our town's well-being. In a region where our demographics are shifting, and with a significant portion of our population being 65 years and older, the need for quality recreational facilities is more important than ever to improve the life of our residents. The arena holds significant value for our entire community, appealing to all age groups. It's crucial for hosting events like the Provincial Women's Curling Tournament, which helps attract and retain individuals across various age groups. We've also had, we had the senior, which was at the Mariner Center recently, but they did use the Yarmouth Curling Club as extra ice surfaces there. So there were draws going on there as well, which without the facility, we're not able to hold it at all. Moreover, the arena plays a key role in generating economic impact through tourism-related activities. Hosting major tournaments brings an influx of visitors, benefiting local businesses, particularly those in the tourism sector, such as accommodations, services, and food establishments. Maintaining a well-kept space for sports, events, and social gatherings enhances residents' quality of life and makes Yarmouth an attractive place to live and stay. However, our arena is showing its age. An acute need for meeting provincial standard is in need of significant repairs and upgrades. The estimated cost for these necessary renovations are approximately a little over about $2.1 million for exterior work and over $700,000 for interior and exterior improvements. We have such items as that as the ice plant that's in our curling club is the existing ice plant from the late 60s. So that's almost, we're going on 60 years now. We have been to council before. We have, and received some money, which we were able to basically Band-Aid through some times. As a lot of things are, we have our ice plant. They don't make things the way they used to. We realize that. So we had a good quality ice plant, but I'd be remiss if I didn't say that each October when we go to turn it on, that we're not crossing fingers and hoping that everything goes well. Investing in these upgrades isn't just about fixing up a building, it's about preserving a crucial community resource that supports the health, happiness, and vitality of Yarmouth. By doing so, we ensure that Yarmouth remains a desirable and supportive place for both our residents and the professionals who serve them. Last year, for instance, we had on our Tuesday night, we have a Get Started in Curling program, which through the Chamber of Commerce, we had the interns, the resident doctors that were in, and they would come out, and basically as their social night, they would come out on every Tuesday night, and they were using our club. And they enjoyed themselves. The ones that are still around are coming back. And it's items like that that are gaining traction in our community. People who are new to our community are coming, whether they live in Tuscott or Port Maitland or Kemp. They all seem to be around there. We had a registration the other night. Somebody, and I wasn't there, I had to go for work to Halifax. One of the people that told me that was working there said that somebody had moved here from British Columbia 2 days ago, and they were in there registering for curling. We seem to get a lot of the people who are coming from away that are interested in joining our curling club. That's what they seem to look up. And our arena is the only one outside of Meteghan and Barrington. Those are the closest ones. So it's unique a unique venue in our region. It's played a significant role in supporting local curling events, including important competitions for men's and women's teams, and remains the go-to location for these activities in our area. Our curling club actually shows that our membership, when it comes to curling, the town of Yarmouth has 19%, the Municipality of Argyle has 38%, and the Municipality of Yarmouth has 43%. So there's quite a number of people from the Municipality of Argyle that use the facility. A lot of those, I think, would be, we have, the ones I think of right offhand would be a lot of people from Wedgeport down that area. It's been quite a few there and a lot from Tuscott. We would always, we'd always like to get into Pubnico, because if we can get a few, we can get a lot. So, so the arena is a vital asset. It provides recreational facilities that cater to all age groups. As Charles, I think, would say. Charles, how long have you been curling?
About 20 years.
About 20 years now. So it's not something that he started when he was a youngster. He's middle-aged and able to start curling at that time, right? We have people who are starting out that we had last year that were varying ages. I had one person that came out last year to try out our stick curling was Flint Churchill. Well, see, you have to look at, we're looking to Guy for Flint Churchill because Flint's not young now, right? So careful. Yeah, but they're able to do it so we've been able to tell people that we've able to host competitors from ages 8 to 88. So some of the upgrades that we're looking at and necessary are interior enhancements. Leveling the rink for year-round use, ensuring it remains accessible and functional in all seasons. Which part of that is that we have a concrete floor in there, which after Christmas, when we get a little bit of frost heave, it's not noticeable when you're walking across it, but when you're curling on it, it's a little bit different. You get a little bit of frost heave on one side, and it makes it's like you're playing on a ski slope. Not probably that bad, but it does need to be replaced. It needs to be leveled up. addressing critical electrical issues and fire hazards that currently pose risk to the arena's safe operation. Storage, we need create additional storage areas to improve accessibility, ensure the rink's safety for all users. Exterior improvements, updating the building's exterior to preserve its structure and appearance, such as the insulation, the roof we've just mentioned actually lately. We've had some major issues with trying to get it fixed. We've had it fixed, and we need a new steel roof. You know, it does on that roof, it does not work with the asphalt shingles of any type, so. And we're also looking at doing some net zero retrofitting, perhaps implementing items such as solar panels, bringing in some, like I know that Charles and I can both say that in the wintertime, in the middle of winter, when it's dark, we don't have enough lighting in our parking lot. We're looking at doing a new entrance for accessibility issues because, you know, as you have here, you can walk right up to the front door. You walk up to the curling club and you're going up a flight of stairs before you ever get in the building. In the middle of winter, where that's what we're having is the curling club, it's not really the best idea. But we've survived this long, but it's something that needs to be addressed with the way things are nowadays. So our plans for attaining funding are collaborative municipal funding. So we're asking all 3 municipalities for collaborative funding. We're going to the province for support, applying for grants. I know that we've had discussions with them, and basically I think what Richard has said is that they come to us and say, we need to get, you know, if you get your municipal levels on side, then you can bring it to the province, and we're, you know, we can, if the community's behind it, then we're gonna look at it. And the same thing goes for the federal government, that we're looking at them as well, and we have to get those other levels on board as well. And then our community engagement, we're trying to build on public support and organize fundraising events within our own club to supplement funding or efforts where required. Nothing too big that way, but I mean, we're nothing that we've gone out and tried to take away from anybody else, that type of thing, but we are looking at the club and trying to do what we can from within, reaching out to the community. And our club members are very willing and able to put on a number of different fundraising events, and they've shown it in the past. And I'm sure when embraced with this, that they're, you know, they've done some and they know that there's more to come. You have any questions for any of us?
Anybody have any questions? Councilor Stratt?
Good presentation. I remember sitting down at the table about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and you were patching up the systems there to keep it going for ice 5, 6 years ago. So I can't imagine that you don't need it to be replaced.
Yeah.
How many members
We
are
have,
you into 50, 60?
no, we have over 100 members there
You do have
now
that?
in the curling section. And that's not really counting juniors, which that seems to fluctuate. When it comes to the juniors, we love to have the juniors in there. But there's enough activities around, like we've always had one night. And one of the other activities, for instance, this past year was minor basketball. Minor basketball went and moved their night to when we had our junior curling program, and kind of kicked us in the shins with that. So we're adjusting, moving our night, trying to go back out and promote. We do have, I mean, within that, we do have a lot of people who come in and will rent the ice as well. We have different things like fun nights on Fridays where we invite the public, business people to come in, have a social evening type of thing. And we also we've reached out to schools. Schools will always come in. Of course, it's always based on busing that, you know, that's a big thing with them, you know, to make that happen. And we try to make sure that we can, well, I'll tell you, it's when we have a lot of the younger kids in, I try to get some of the younger people in to provide them, because they don't want to see us, you know? you know, they want to see somebody that they know it's a good idea for them, somebody who's in their, you know, who's early 20s, let's say, instead of somebody who's mid-50s. So that's where they go with that.
Thank you.
Councillor Sonia,
Thank you.
something,
Thank you for the presentation. It's a lot of money, approaching $3 million. So obviously you're not asking that from us, I get that. But how confident are you for getting the funding from the provincial and federal government? Just
I had the premier in town approximately 3 weeks ago, I believe, and I brought the project up to his ear. I've met with your MLA here in Argyle, and he's on side with us, and he said, bring it up to the premier, which I did at the Yarmouth Airport. I think it was about 3-4 weeks ago. And he told me, he said, if communities committed to the project, I can assure you that the province will be there to support you. And that was his words, not my words. So, and we've already had a half a commitment from the federal government that if our community was involved, the province is involved, that they would be there to support us. And as you know, there's rumors in the air, there might be elections or something going on. So that's why we're trying to speed it up right now, to fast track it, to get to the federal government before there is an election.
So it's a question I've asked before in different situations. If you were not able to get all that money, let's say you get half of it, can you do something with that money?
Well, we would have to go back to our funding partners because I brought a copy of the letter from the municipality, and they've committed to 300,000, but that's on hinging that we do the project. So if we were only doing part of the project, we'd have to go back to all funding partners again and ask, you know, for their blessing on it, or, but we're staying focused on going ahead and doing the thing. Like that building was built in 1968, I think,
Oh, before the, yeah.
or 64.
Well, I
It was
think-
in the 60s.
Yeah, I guess,
And, you know, we've been putting Band-Aids and Band-Aids, and it's time. And I think when they were looking at the Mariner Center, they, to put the curling out there was over $7 million. So we think that we can revamp what we have and make it an asset for our community for another 20 years for $3 million. And the whole membership is 100% behind this, so.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, there are a lot of the, I think a lot of the pieces of the project, I guess to add to what you have, that are separate from one another. You know, I mean, we want to do everything, right? But there are certain things that we could do, you know, like, I don't think the entrance doesn't have anything to do with the new concrete floor or the new ice plant. The new ice plant comes in, if somebody says, we'll give you the ice plant tomorrow, we're gonna install it next week. You know, whether the other stuff's done or not, right? Poof, there it is. And that's kind of where we're, you know, there's a level of importance on those things. But all of these things they do lead one into another.
Yeah, the essence of my question was if you need $1 million and you only get half, then you can't do the project. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you're building $1 million
Yeah.
house and you only get $500,000, you can't build the house.
Right.
So that's
Yeah.
kind of where I was leading.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like this year, for instance, we have to go with our ice plant. We were still using Freon, right? So we were like one of the last places, so we have to change from the Freon before we start. So that's in a couple weeks. There's a project where I think actually we've gone to do this part, was to do that change. So that's coming out, our chemical is going in so that we can use that. And so there's, of course, so now we've got an ice plant that was always built on this, that they have to install new seals on and this type of thing. And so there's an extra kind of finger crossing going on with that one, that works with that. It's supposed to. I hope.
I can also tell you, Warden and Councillor, that the town and the Committee of the Whole said that they were on side with the project. I do not have the letter, because they were only having their council meeting late this afternoon to ratify, and I couldn't get the letter in time. But if you want a copy of it, I'll make sure your CAO gets a copy. And I gave him a copy of the one from the municipality.
Okay. Councillor Bork.
Yeah, I guess you answered my question. So you said the municipality is going to give you 300?
Yes, so what we had asked for was,
So the town, is the town going to give the same amount, or you don't know?
We don't know. All we know that they made a motion in Committee of the Whole to support the project, and they were bringing it back to council today to be ratified. And their council, I think, was this afternoon, late this afternoon. And we couldn't get to them in time to get a letter.
so what they had told us was that they were fully behind us with regards to the letter, not a problem. What their suggestion was to hold it off until their budget next year for the $300,000. Which we had asked for was $100,000 a year for 3 years, was the way we.
Okay, that was my second,
Yeah.
what are you looking for?
We may have skipped over that right away, but we're getting, but it's $100,000 a year for 3 years is what we were asking all the municipalities for.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
So I know one of the
were you
questions that had
expecting?
come up was based on, everybody looks at their funding and with the because the town of Yarmouth had a smaller number of people in the curling club, where the municipality of Argyle and the municipality of Yarmouth were most of the people that were members of the club. Like what I had in there was 39% are from the municipality of Argyle, members of our curling club. But we know that we have, the town of Yarmouth, we had to kind of go about that a different way, is that they have a lot of people who are the daily users. You know, that they're in and they're eating at the restaurant or
Right.
what, you know,
That's
they're
right.
doing they're the ones that are down there for the fun nights and this type of thing. So it's all in how you look at those, how you decide to look at those numbers. But we think it's fair that way, you know, that we're hoping for, you know, that 300,000 from each of the municipalities, 2 municipalities in the town.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councillor Bork. Woodrow.
Thank you, Warren. I'm just curious, great presentation, by the way. Yeah, we need the retrofit. I play golf and I've seen the facility quite a few times. Just wondering, just for my information, how much does it cost, like for an ice plant?
Oh, good question. Do you have that down? How much how much is an ice plant? I want to say it's handy to $200,000.
Okay. Yeah.
And it might be $250,000.
I thought it was 400, but I didn't dare say the number.
You know, 400?
Well, that was.
I guess, so there's 2 different ways, I guess, probably that is more of a finished cost, because what happens is when we're looking at this, when we take the flooring out,
Yeah.
for instance, we bring in a new ice plant, we've got to run the lines, those water
Yeah.
lines all through the floor.
That's right.
That's where that extra cost is gonna come in,
Yeah.
right in that.
No, I was just curious,
Yeah.
that's all. Yeah. Yeah.
But I know there's been there's only a couple of places around that will do it, and different quotes at different times, and
Yeah.
all in how you
Yeah.
look at those things, what time of day, I think, is where we get a cost.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Councillor Stratt.
Aaron, another question was accessibility. With the Accessibility Act and by 2030, people need to get in. Is there another way to get in? Because we go eat at the Galley South a lot of Sundays.
Yeah.
Those steps, at my age, I'm starting to crawl up those.
Yeah.
Is there another place people can get in there except those steps?
Well, so,
That's in the.
yes,
That's
so
the
what we
front,
have
yeah.
right now is so if you walk to the front of the building.
Yeah.
So you walk to the front of the building, the first thing you're greeted by is a set of steps.
Yes.
If you go around to one side of the building, there's a wheelchair ramp, which you can go up. If you go all the way around the building, there's Well, that doesn't help you get to the second floor.
So it's-
But there's a ground floor entrance on the back of the building.
Okay,
But you still have to go up the steps.
right.
And what we're looking at doing is with the entrance, for instance, we're looking at putting in a lift. So making a new entrance, having a lift right there, taking the deck off and making it something that shows off
Got you.
the harbor, as opposed to a wooden deck with a wooden facing where you can't see it, which we don't notice lots of times. It was almost amazing. We had somebody come in and look at the design and they pointed out and they said, how come you can't see the harbor? I said, what do you mean you can't see the harbor? And I walked out and there's this big wooden deck, you know,
Deck up
like
front,
the
yeah.
side of a deck, like a privacy fence. I was like, gee, I don't think I ever noticed that before. You know, it's just the way, what you see when you're not there versus when you're there all the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
But we would, I guess, in adding to that, when you talk about accessibility, the lift is very important to us because, especially on the curling side, like you talk about going to the restaurant, we have had, there was at one time, and Charles, I'm with Lockie Rutt and the other fella. I mean, that's 10 years ago now, I guess. So they were out there in wheelchair curling. So we have the ability for them to be out there on the ice, wheelchair curling. We have a ramp for them to get down on the ice. We have the ability for them to get into the club, driving around ground floor entrance. But like you say, in order for them to go to the second floor, I gotta take them back outside and around to the wheelchair ramp to get them to go upstairs. That's, you know, there's accessibility and then there's, we need to have something better,
Oh,
right?
that's why I wondered.
Yeah, so it was perfectly fine on the ground floor level. You know, we had a way of getting them in, but when you wanted you wanted to do something upstairs, you know, to take somebody back outside, walk them around so that we can go up the wheelchair ramp to get them onto the second floor, seems like it's a bit of a, not the right way of doing things. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Counselor Saulnier?
Thank you. Erin, I'm pretty certain that you cannot do the renovations or get the fundings without having accessibility. I think it's mandated.
Absolutely.
So there's no way around that.
Yeah, well, that's why it's one of the top things
Yeah.
on our,
Just
on our list.
wanted to put that
Yeah.
out there.
everything that comes up accessibility, we're planning on being on.
You won't get the funding.
Yeah. That's why, I mean, it's the right thing to do for it to be in our plan,
Right.
right? So that's not a negotiable one. That's like I mentioned to Richard, it's, you know, one of those things you talked about, like if you had that could be project number 1 or 1A.
Yeah.
You know, has to be.
Just-
But we did have an accessibility study, right, where we passed, but it doesn't pass common sense wise. Right, so that's where we,
Counselor Donaldson?
This is a question for the CAO. This is our last council meeting, as you realize, before the election, and we're going to have a significant change in councillors. So how does this go forward? Like, it will be in next year's budget if it's approved for the first 100,000, right? But a decision will have to be made for all 300,000 going forward for 100,000 each year. Like, is that on the onus of the new council coming in? Like, we can't make that decision here tonight, I don't believe, can we, or should we, or? Because there's a lot of councillors that will be new that haven't heard this presentation.
That's right.
So it's an awkward situation right now.
I mean,
I fully agree with the project,
Yeah.
but the guy that's coming in my place, he doesn't have to run an election, he's automatically here, but I don't know what he would think of the whole thing.
right. So that's an excellent question through you, Mr. Chair. I mean, you have a couple of options. I mean, you're still in power today. And I think that one option would be to say, okay, well, we still occupy the reins here and that we are the ones actually that know the most about the financial situation of the municipality, so you're actually in a very good position to make a decision. The other option, of course, is to say, well, we're at the sunset of our time here, and it's not fair to put the pressure on another council. But we do make decisions that put pressure on other councils all the time. Mariner Center expansion is a perfect illustration. You would have made that decision to make a commitment to do that. That will absolutely have an impact on new councils. And of course, there's always the risk that new councils might, maybe not in that instance, but could change their mind. So one of the things you could do as a council is to ask yourselves whether this is something you wish to commit to. It would be a conditional commitment because it's conditional on the other money. No other money, no project. And so you could do that. And then what you could do is also just perhaps make a notice of motion to re-bring it up to the new council so that the new council could look at that decision and either endorse it or agree with it. The risk of doing that, of course, is that they don't agree with it, but the majority of you will be returning to the new council. So perhaps that risk is low. I mean,
I don't agree with that because there's 3 of us for sure not going to be here and we got 4 elections.
that's true. There's a possibility that there would
Could
be
be a
less,
big
well, it'd be
change.
close to half, as it would be almost half. You're right. That's my mistake. So the risk might be a little higher based on that decision. So it is a future decision, and it is conditional on, the biggest decision isn't the new council. The biggest decision is whether they're going to get funded. That's the biggest what if, after which I think the next comes into play. So the risk of the motion is fairly low to make it now, I would say. I think it can legally be done because you're still in power in council. You will be putting some pressure on the new council to endorse that decision. Decisions can be reversed by motion or repealed, and you're all familiar on how that works. But that's the risk you would take if you decide something before the election. And I don't really know what the timing of that decision needs to be either. I know that we're the last ones on the gate, so, and obviously there's some pressure for a federal election.
There's pressure, excuse me, if I may, Warden, like, the pressure's on to our committee is to get to the other 2 levels of government, because there's going to be 2 elections. There's going to be a provincial election, and there's going to be a federal election. And I shouldn't say, I won't say what I think about the provincial one, but I'll go to the federal one. Who knows when that's going to happen? Like, all you got to do is have one of the opposition parties join with the Conservative, and they're going to take the government down. That could happen tomorrow, or it could go to next year. Who knows? But our timing is we want to get to them and get the presentation done to them so that they can make their commitment, because once the writ's dropped, they can't make any decisions. It has to be done prior to the writ.
I'm of the mind that the other 2 councils have made their conditional commitment. I see no reason why we can't do the same thing.
I feel the same way. I feel the same way, Richard.
Yeah. So we go ahead and make the motion then.
Motion that we provide funding to help the curling club based on the 300,000, 100,000 per year, and that's conditional on the federal provincial fund.
Do we have a seconder?
Second?
Moved and seconded.
Just on the motion, and it's not typical to have a presentation and a motion, but I understand the nature of it, and it's entirely up to you. And I just want to make sure that we have the year right. So the first year would be 25-26, where the 100,000 would be committed. Am I clear? Is that what I'm understanding? Okay, because that's what this letter also says. I just want to make clear to the clerk, to the assistant, that the motion starts in 25-26.
Discussion?
Yes.
Councillor Digdon.
Yeah, I'm all for it. The only question I was gonna ask to our CAO, financially, are we in a position to be able to make that motion and stand by our commitment without bringing any undue hardship?
Through you, Mr. Chair, always when we make a decision like this, you're making a choice to to maybe accelerate one project versus another. The size is not significant based on your reserves, meaning it's a significant ask. Clearly, we're not like, it's not raining greenbacks in Argyle, but it's the ask, considering it is, it's 10% of the total cost of the project, most likely. That is an extraordinarily low amount when you consider the amount of value that you would get out of that. And so yes, you have it in the reserve. Can it impact other projects? Yes. Is this project more important than other projects? That's up to you as council, but I can say this, that when you get leveraged money, those projects typically accelerate to the top.
That's right.
So if there's a high probability that this one gets funded, then in my mind, you have the money and it's a tremendous investment for 10% of a project.
Thank you.
Councillor Saunier.
Glenn stole most of my, Councillor Digdon stole so much of my thunder. However, just to add a little more to that, CAO, you said this could jump up as a priority over other projects. Is that hurtful to us? Do you have any idea what, I find this decision very, very fast. I've only been here a while, and yet this is a very fast decision. And I'm wondering if we're overlooking anything in terms of expenses here.
It's hard for me to, based on the motion made today, look at the long-term capital projects and say it's going to have an impact on this, that. The fact that it's a conditional investment is a factor here, because you actually may not have a project, so it's kind of like a contingency. In terms of other projects, certainly there are some projects on our list that are not high priority, that they're there, but they're not necessarily things that need to occur immediately. I can't off the top of my head tell you this one, that one. But what I can say is that projects that are heavily funded typically move up in priority compared to where it might be in a week, in a month from now, or in the past. Last thing I'd say is that we certainly have a priority of capital projects over the next probably 5 years, actually more than that. This project is not on that list, so by this motion, it would inform me to put it on the list. In order to properly tell you precisely which project might be impacted, I can't really do that. It's
So
too quick for
I'm
me.
just being a little cautious. I knew this ask was coming at some point, because when I first became a councillor, actually before I became a councillor, I was talking about funding for the curling club, and I understand there's a need, I really do, and it should be fixed, and I'm all for it. I'm just being a little bit careful with our finances, that's all. And because this is a fast decision, there's no question about it.
If I can just add something, this has the probability of impacting smaller projects. It really doesn't have the probability of impacting larger projects, because those larger projects require a long time typically to find the funding anyway. It's really the smaller projects that we might have that could be impacted in this way, that this one might actually prioritize over another smaller project. Some of our bigger projects that we have, obviously the Mariner Center expansion is going to have no impact on that whatsoever. That's already been committed and funded, and it could change the timing of other investments, but we're still moving forward on a lot of projects. Like, we've got 2 sidewalk reviews going on right now. We've got the East Pubnico Phase 2, that's going to happen. Those things they're already in play. They're not going to be impacted. The likely place that the money would come from here is probably the operating reserve anyway, because that's your rainy day account. So that would then in doing that, then what would happen is it really wouldn't have any impact on any capital project, because they're still all funded, right? So if the 300 came from the reserve, then that would certainly reduce the probability of a project being impacted negatively by this.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no more questions, are we ready for the question? For the motion, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Warden and Council, and just in the closing note, we are 100% volunteers. We do not own this facility, but we see the facility as an asset to our community, and we want to enhance it so we can get doctors and professionals in our community. So that's the way we look at it anyhow. And I
Sure.
thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for the presentation. Very good presentation.
That letter of support will be coming forthwith?
We'll have that to you as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you very much.
Perfect.
Thank you. Good luck with your elections.
I'll send Warren over to your place.
Okay. We'll continue with the agenda. We have number 5, which is adoption of minutes of the September 26, 2024 Executive Council meeting. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, they stand approved as presented. Recognizing Argyle, does anybody have anything to bring up? Okay, I have Councillor Bork,
Thank you.
not Boudreau.
No, Boudreau. I just want to mention this summer, during the Congress, we had a group of volunteers from East and West Pimlico, and Glenn was, mentioned Councillor Digdon was part of it as well. And I just want to thank the organizations that helped us to do something for the people coming, the families that got together, and they were all a success. So I just want to say thank you to all the volunteers and to the halls and I think West Pimlico, they had the Women's Auxiliary that helped out to make meals and things like that. So if it wasn't for them, I don't think we would have pulled it off. So thank you to everyone that helped us to get through the week.
Thank you. Councillor Boudreau.
Thank you, Warden. Another successful tuna tournament in Wedgeport this summer. Thank you to all the fishermen. Thanks to all the volunteers and the people who attend. And there was 20 boats this year. It was the 20th anniversary. And also a study was done and economic impact. And for this area, I think it's great for a 1-week tournament. It's around $700,000. So we were quite impressed with that. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Saunier.
Thank you. I'd like to congratulate the people who's been working on the community hall. They received grants from us, the municipality and the province and federal governments, and they've done a lot of volunteer work. They're not quite ready to open the building yet. It'll be a while yet. However, they've worked hard, and I want to thank them for doing that. Thank you.
Yep. Councillor Digdon.
Thank you. Just, I might be jumping the gun here, I'm not sure. For the councillors that are here this evening that are not coming back, is this possibly their last meeting, or? Okay, I see our CAO shaking his head. I personally would like to thank Guy Surratt, Richard Donaldson, and Calvin D'Entremont. Since before I became a councillor, I knew all 3 of them. I talked to all 3 of them. I've asked them for guidance since I've been in council. They've helped me out along the way. There's no saying they haven't. Just putting your name in now for government, whether it's provincial, federal, or municipal government, can take a lot from a person to put their name forth. They've put their name forth years ago, these men. They've done well. Did they do everything right? Maybe they didn't. Do we do everything right as council? Maybe we don't. But at the same time, they've let their name stand. They've had very successful careers as far as I'm concerned as counselors. And I would personally like to thank them for what they've done for the municipality of Argyle and for this area.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no other lights come on, we'll continue. Next is the warden's report. I made a quick try to do a summer one, but I know there wasn't a whole lot going on. I mean, there was a whole lot going on, but not as far as in July and August. I didn't have a whole lot on my calendar, but we had a lot of meetings. We didn't stop much for the summer, for sure. I mean, our summer break was cut short a little bit more than normal, but there were items that needed to be dealt with. I don't know if there's any questions on my report. Committee reports, there's a list of committees. Does anybody have anything that they want to bring up on any committee that they're on? I have Councillor Stratt.
Just to update on the airport, we had our meeting today for the airport, and there'll be three letters. There'll be three letters. There'll be a letter going out to the 3 units asking for support, if I can, I'm trying to think, to send the letters to the other units if they could support the airport financially. So there'll be, and in there'll be numbers as far as how many life flights that land at the airport. And we have an economist that's on the board that'll be given the numbers roughly from each region. We can't get that from EHS. I tried. And we couldn't get the numbers from EHS. They don't want to release from each area. I didn't try to get hold of Colton if he could get it, but EHS didn't want to release it. But the economist said that she has a way to give a slate, give an idea of where they're from, and she knows. She explained to us. I can't explain it here. So that letter will be coming to council from the airport saying that we want to send a letter to try to put some pressure on for some help.
Okay.
Just
Thank you.
want to know, yeah.
Anybody else? Seeing none, we'll continue. Oh, I'll just switch something here. Substance use awareness report, oh, that was part of the committee, sorry. 7-day notice, I don't see any. For decision, offshore wind farm, and that's Councillor Boudreau, who would like to say something on that one there. Can you turn your mic?
So this was brought to my attention last week. Councillor Sonia had mentioned this probably a few months ago, but it really hit hard a week ago. The provincial and federal government are proposing offshore wind farms off our coast, and this could have a huge economical impact on our coastal communities. Proposed areas include Middlebank and Sable Island Bank for now, and more to come in the future. A buffer zone of 25 kilometers would be put in place, therefore restricting fishermen access. The issue with this is that we have local fishermen that fish these banks for snow crab, halibut, and other species of fish. Also, we have a local fish plant that relies on these banks for sea cucumber harvesting. At the peak of the season, they employ 100 people. My suggestion is to write a letter to our MP and MLA to express our concerns for these proposed sites.
Okay. Discussion, or do we need Councillor Saulnier?
I just want to add to that I do believe that the buffer zone you're talking about, is that on the Emerald Bank and Sable Bank? Is that what you're talking about?
From what I understand, it's on both banks.
Okay.
It's
So,
on Middlebank and Sable Bank.
right, and there's also a 25-kilometer buffer zone all around Nova Scotia or from basically Cape St. Mary all the way down around to Sydney. And that's from the shoreline going off 25 kilometers where you can't put windmills. But from what I understand, you can put windmills beyond 25 kilometers. Today's fishery, that's where fishing starts, lobstering. Everybody goes offshore. Not everybody, but a huge number of boats go offshore. And 25 kilometers is encroaching completely on their ground. And I think there's going to be a storm coming up, seriously. I guess that's all I have to say. That's just, if they put windmills there, there's going to be some trouble. Thank you.
Councillor Digdon.
Thank you very much. As far as that storm that may be brewing, I'd much rather to see that storm come beforehand than afterwards. And what I mean by that, like a whole pile more communications with your fishermen and see what's going on. And the communications not in November, something like that, or December, when they're all getting ready to go fishing. But when a lot of these fishermen, or fishers, I should say, because there's a lot of ladies into it there now, can actually be at these meetings
Yeah,
and have them well advertised.
yeah, well, Councillor Saunier actually went to a meeting, what was it, 3 months ago? And I don't think there's ever had another one. They've ever had another one.
That was the last one, probably.
Yeah, probably the last one.
So,
See, everything's hush-hush, right?
yeah, but I think we should better not go down that road again with the hush-hush
Yeah.
or perceive that that's the road we're going.
It's not hush-hush.
No.
However, unless you're looking for it, it was there.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew about it, and I think, but I was at the time the only councillor there. So I can't say that it's hush-hush, but I think that the seriousness of it all wasn't settling into the fishermen. Only a few,
That's right.
yeah.
So, I guess there's a motion in order if we're, can you turn your mic, yeah, turn your mic on.
I'd like to make a motion that we write a letter to our MP and our MLA
Okay,
concerning our, expressing our concerns for this.
for this.
Yeah,
Seconded by Councillor Digdon.
thank you.
Councillor Saunier.
I just want to add this, that we did, through our CAO, send a letter for clarification to our MP. Did we get a response yet? No. Should we wait for that response before we send a second letter to him?
I think a polite reminder is certainly not outside of reasonable at this point, when we can certainly do that.
I'm just saying that, once for clarification, that was over the MSP?
Yep.
Am I correct?
Yeah, the spatial plan, yeah.
Yeah, which engulfed everything.
That was kind of an all-in, but,
Yeah.
but I think that there's nothing stopping this council to send a letter outlining particular concerns around the offshore wind. I will say that the NSFM has taken a position on this. No, I shouldn't say a position. They have, it's one of their priorities, this offshore wind concept. So as part of this ongoing education, I can go to the NSFM and determine if they have received information that perhaps we should be keeping our eyes on.
Okay.
So, yeah, I guess, long story short, we'll send a reminder and a revision, I guess, to the fact that the offshore wind is a particular concern.
Sure. Okay.
Councillor Digdon.
Thank you to our CAO. You'd said the NSFM, it's one of their priorities, as in for it or against it, or?
Priorities is probably not the right word. The NSFM establishes areas of focus, and one of them is climate change. And so under that, I think this idea of offshore wind has come up. So how the NSFM likes to work now, they're changing all the time, is that if they have a priority, if climate change is one of their like priority items, then the municipalities can make motions and requests of the NSFM regarding that particular issue, whatever that is, whether it's municipal sustainability, that's another one, et cetera. So what happens is other municipalities then, make resolutions to kind of say, okay, this is our position on that. So the NSFM doesn't really take a position on it. They say, okay, this is important. Okay, municipalities, what do you say? And then based on that feedback, they'll then bring up the advocacy to the province or federal government. So I can't say that they're for or against offshore, but I do know it's on their radar.
Because the only thing I'd say to that, through you, sir, is I don't think we ever got anything from NSFM as far as what way we'd like to see it go or anything like that.
Agreed.
And I know that some of those decisions or talks are not Halifax, but you have to get out of Halifax sometimes and see what really goes on both ends of Nova Scotia. And if you look at Cape Breton, as far as the fishing down there and this end of the province and all that, yeah. Exactly. There's could be a lot to lose. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. There's no more questions. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, carried. Our next item, review of the area rates and cost of fire protection services. There's an attachment, and I'm going to pass that on to our CAO, who will explain. And can I be excused from the chair for once? Minute.
I'll
at the
talk
most.
as long
You
as
can talk as long as
it
until I
takes.
come back.
Yeah, I don't think, as they would say in French, n'a pas de danger. There's no danger in that. So, look, we all know council had the meeting with Seahawk Consulting. You've authorized hiring them to coming in and doing the fire review. They've done a fire review, and they came back to present to you, and they've had a number of additional work done with the fire departments. They have submitted to us an action plan, and that action plan isn't really, it's saying these are the things that need to be done, but they're not saying when or any of that, right? So they've gone in and they've done a lot of work, and they've established quite a few things that could be done to improve the fire services. One of the discussions that he was having with the firemen is this concept of a regional fire department. And that, what does that mean? Is it one fire department? What does it mean? And what it really means is that there's a regional response, okay? Right now we have mutual aid that only certain districts help each other based on where the fires are occurring. The concept that he was raising was that this idea of fire departments being on their own is going by the way of the dodo bird. There's way too much work, way too much documentation, training, liability, asset management, replacement, all these things, that it's too much work for an individual fire department to look at alone. The other problem we have when we are all in our little corners is that we all 9 fire departments believe they need this many bunker gear, this many pieces of equipment. And so, but the reality is that mutual aid calls are never, nobody's ever let down. I actually asked this of the fire chief, Stephen Jacquard from Wetchport. I said, have you ever been let down on a mutual aid call? And he said, no, sir. And I said, have you ever let down anyone on a mutual aid call? He said, no, sir. So, and I'm like, okay, well, if those two things are true, then why does everybody need 8 trucks? If everybody's collaborating, we're really not collaborating in a way that makes sense moving forward. This wouldn't even be a discussion if we were talking about the same price of things of 8 years ago or 9 to now, but we're not. Each of these fire trucks, new or new to you, can cost between $500,000 and $800,000. And we're not even talking about a ladder truck here. We're talking about a rescue pumper combo or some sort of, the vehicles are better, they're more sophisticated, they can do 2 things instead of the older ones that can only do 1 thing. But at the end of the day, what we see with a lot of these fire departments is that, I'm using the word hoarder, they're hoarding. And they're hoarding because they don't know what to do if it rains. There's no out for them on a rainy day. They had to plan their own rainy days for too many years. So this was really the point, and where other fire departments have seen success is that the municipalities actually take over the long-term capital replacement plan of the organization, and they take over an area rate that is for the municipality, so that the municipality can actually, in an orderly fashion, obtain the relevant equipment at a time where it needs to be replaced. The other issue here is every fire department, and I'll say this is probably true of every fire department in every rural volunteer fire department in Canada, is that somebody's using equipment that was supposed to last 10 years and they're using it for 17. And that, you know, whether that's bunker gear or whether that's an air apparatus or other such things, and we all know that that's just not on anymore. So this was something that was okay before, but not really okay anymore. So all of those discussions really led me to, okay, how much does it cost to do fire protection services in the municipality in cents, right? Like in cents to the dollar on an assessment. And the answer is 17 cents. So today, if nothing changed at all, there's an average rate for capital area rates of 8.48. So that means, you know, Eelbrook's at 12.5, Pubnico's at 9, Mills Hill's at 0. The rates are all different across the place, but the average is 8.48. And all the things that we pay for, that we don't charge out, that's just embedded in our operational costs, is 8.56. So it's almost the same number. And so, you know, when we hear about rates in Barrington and other places, we hear 12, 15, 17, 19, and it's like, oh, but these are all in rates, right? So the way we do things is that we absorb operational, but we don't, but the capital gets billed out. So there's all sorts of things that we have to consider changing over the next period of time. I'm going to say period of time. Internally, I just want to say that we're going to look at the list and we're going to assess the list in terms of urgency. And we're going to ask ourselves the question, what can staff do in 12 hours, 12 days, 12 weeks, 12 months? And so that really says, okay, what are you going to do in a year, right? Some of these things can happen in less than 12 hours, but they may not be that important. Other things may take you 12 months, but they're urgent. So we have to still go through that list. The other thing that's outstanding here is the new council will be asked to support additional consulting assistance from the same firm. We'll make sure the procurement is appropriate, but there are a number of things that we don't believe we're qualified to do, such as the preparation and negotiation and finalization of standard operating guidelines for 9 units. I mean, that could be a big undertaking, and I think what we need are two things. We need firefighters working with firefighters in a situation where you have a credible person at the front. If we as a unit, there is no offense to myself, but what am I gonna do, right? I mean, they need somebody with a professional grade, long-term firefighter such as Jamie Coots from Seahawk. They've priced certain things. We're not gonna get into that right now but I have a price. The new council will have to consider what kind of investment that they're gonna do now and into the future there, because that will build, some of the stuff we just simply, if we do it, it will take too long and it will be done poorly. Okay? So what's this for? This is just a taste of what will come to council over the next year to 10. We have some hard decisions to make around financing and funding. I predict that we will be looking at a situation where we look at the possibility, and this is taking a bit of a leap of, it's not necessarily true, but if you kind of vision the future, and you look at the municipalities taking over the capital replacement of these fundamental trucks, et cetera, this is most likely something that where the municipality goes out and borrows a lot of money, and that the area rate is collected to pay down the debt. Because the sooner these things get done, the cheaper they are. And then the clock starts at zero. So if things have to be replaced every 20 years, the next council has to understand exactly what that looks like. And so there's no surprises. So there's a lot of work to be done around training and documentation and all these other things. And some of these things we can do right away. Like, so for instance, we ordered 9 bulletin boards for safety because they didn't have a safety bulletin board. So we ordered 9, but I mean, it's just a little thing, right? But I think it's just telling them that we're on a course, right? So the document is for your information. There's no motion to be made here. It does talk a little bit about like, if we were responsible for the capital rate and if it was 5 cents, how much can we borrow, right? And the answer is 3.2 million. And 7.5 is 4.8, 10 is 6.4. All these have to be negotiated because you have to figure out what the right number is for your community, and you have to figure out the right number for the fire department. So that's my summary of where we are now in terms of fire, and I can say that from our perspective, we took this priority very seriously. You grabbed this one as a priority. I can tell you that staff is very excited to lean in on this one because they see we're no different than the fire departments. We're doing the same thing every, more than enough times and then wondering why it's not working. Like, so both of us have improvements to move that service into a different direction. And I think together that we can probably do that, but we're gonna need the support of council, and that's not a blank check. So we're gonna have some hard discussions about what that might be. So that's the end of my summary as to where we are right now.
I have Councillor Saunier.
Oh, thank you. I listened to what Seahawk had to say here at the table and also at the fire department. What I found really attractive on how you were there is the getting rid of trucks that are no longer needed. And so when you get rid of a truck that you don't need, you pay less insurance. You don't have to pay insurance for that truck. Secondly, you can sell it and make money, so it's a win-win. What I found also attractive was that he suggested that some provinces pool every fire department together and seek insurance for the entire fleet for the whole province through the NSFM. Is that something that's been mentioned in the NSFM? It was or will be mentioned? Because I think there's a huge saving there.
The answer to your question, through you, Mr. Chair, is the NSFM has been contacted with this concept. They required a little bit more information. I'm going to connect them with the Alberta equivalent of the NSFM and have them talk, because it's obvious to me. Like, so the NSFM is the project administrator for insurance for insurance for municipalities, and that includes fire departments, but they administer it. There is a broker that is engaged and paid a brokerage fee to be the broker, and then the broker engages the insurance company that ultimately insures those assets. Obviously, the bigger the group, the cheaper the price. I think that part of that is being negotiated with the NSFM now because they're actually going out to market for competition. But I think the way that Alberta does it is that there doesn't, I don't know if there's, the middleman is different. So there seems to be, like, the insurance holder appears to be the NSFM and not the individual municipality. So you can imagine how big and powerful that might be. I don't know if it's gonna make a difference. And honestly, I've seen premium difference. I've been told there were premium differences in trucks in Alberta, like they were saying 1,500, and ours are like 5,500. It's like, how the heck can that be that different? But what we don't know is what is it covering? How much liability is it covering? What are the laws? What are the insurance laws in Nova Scotia, and how are they different in Alberta? So there's a lot of questions still. Raised it with the NSFM, they're aware of it, and I'm hoping that we're going to connect with Alberta, because if there's something to learn there, they are already connected. They have a relationship there, so I'm hoping that will start a positive movement.
Thank you.
Councillor Bork.
Yes, thank you. Mies, just a comment. I was very impressed with this group, and I think that he's gonna hopefully move forward our fire departments, so they'll be more efficient, and the safety of our firemen as well is very important, and of our residents. So I think this is something that we're gonna move forward and very positive for our future for our fire departments. Thank you.
Got it. Councillor Stratton.
Yes, I guess to the CAO, I know you didn't mention this, but I'm sure in the back of your mind, it's there. This is all in collaboration with our fire departments, with our fire chiefs, which is so important. That the fire chiefs, and so far, they've been invited, they've met with Jamie Coots. That weekend session they had was very well attended from what I'm hearing, that Jimmy Coots put on while he was down. So yes, in collaboration with the fire chiefs, that's the way you have to move, we're going to move forward. Next question, I guess, is the area rates, and I know it's just the numbers you've put here for us to get an idea. I need a little clarification. So the first part where it says fire protection budgeted investments come to 8.56 average rate per $100. That's what we as a municipality supply the fire departments. That's not an area rate, that's just our number. Would that be replaced by an area rate? So that money that's there now that we're supplying, then that could be put in an area rate which would put the price up to each resident. Do you follow what I'm trying to say here?
Yeah, I do. So
Not saying I'm against or not, I just want
No.
clarification.
so the 8.56, that first bit,
Yeah.
that's embedded in your $1.11 rate or your $2.29 rate.
Got
So
it.
it's already in the rate. So what would happen is if we switched everything to
Yeah.
a fire area rate where there
Yeah.
was one rate to rule them all, then what would likely happen is there would be a reduction in your residential rate
Got it.
by that amount. So now, look, and this is not an act, this is.
Preliminary.
This is proposed, right? So what would happen in theory is that you could go from 111 to 101,
Yeah.
let's say. And then everybody on the, and then right now, what people see now is they only see the capital area rate
That's
on their
right.
tax bill. So then what would happen is, and let's just assume that we had a uniform rate across the bit and it was 8 cents.
Yeah.
They would see, 9 cents coming from the reduction from 111 to 103 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
There's like 9 cents difference there, right? I know I got the math wrong, but that's okay.
Close enough, yeah.
I'm just an accountant. Anyway, so the 9 cents would come off the rate, and then the fire rate would be a complete rate. So it would be actually more transparent, be more understanding of what is actually happening.
Exactly. I love it.
So,
I love it.
but then, of course, obviously, it doesn't mean that there wouldn't be an additional rate for some people, because if you have a uniform capital rate in 4 years, well, right today, Eel Brook's at 12.5, and Minerals Hill's at 0. So if there was a uniform rate of 8, well, that's going to cause some problems for some and have some celebrations for others.
right.
But at the end of the day, is the service, is it important that all units have the appropriate equipment and responses such that it would necessitate that kind of a rate. Now, what did the service look like in 5 years? It could be a lot cheaper. There could be less departments. Some people might say, you know what, nope, we're done with this. We're gonna do it differently. All sorts of things could happen. All sorts of things could be different. We know that there's monies to be saved here, especially in insurance, reduction of vehicle fleets, if people are willing to do that. Again, this is all with the fire chiefs and with the fire review. None of these decisions are gonna come to council without them saying, this is the way to go. Because we can't.
Yeah.
It has to be together.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, could I follow with just one more question? So I see here on your preliminary, there would be a 3% annual increase, and you're not saying that's what it would be, but you're saying, in this instance, and that would be 3% per year for 10 years.
Yeah, and so
On that, let's say if it was 16, 17 cents or whatever the case may be.
right,
Yeah.
so what I will say is, today, in today's dollars,
Yeah.
if we had a uniform rate of 1 cent
Yeah.
across the bill, it would produce taxation revenues of 68,000
Oh,
today.
right,
But what happens tomorrow? In a year from now, your assessments go up. So the rate, this isn't an assumption that the rate will go up. This is an assumption that your market values go up over time. So 3% might be high,
Yeah.
and it might be 1%, might be 7%. I've seen it worse
You
or
got
better.
it.
So we just guessed at 3% to understand, like, if you did this for 10 years, what would be the average amount that you would get out of 1 cent? And the average amount is 80,000. And so you multiply that by 5, if you think the rate is 5,
Or 7.
8, 10, whatever. So it's just an easy way to figure out what's going on.
I got it, yeah, I just want to clarify. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Anybody else? So at this point, this is, again, information more than anything. And I looked at, okay, that the area rates that are there now, and you've got, let's say, let's go to Eelbrook, where they have they're year 6 out of 10, but they've set their rate to cover for 10 years.
right.
So what would happen in a case like that? We would still have to cover that somehow.
That's part of the hard decisions that would need to happen.
Yeah.
So for those people that are ending an area rate, that's no problem, right? They'll end and we like, okay, well, time out. Don't be going out there and getting another rate right away. Let's just take a look at this. The municipality is going to have some hard questions about, well, what about these larger rates over the course of time? How are we going to deal with those? And some of the possibility is that in some regions, maybe the rate isn't uniform until such time as those things are paid.
Okay.
That's a possibility. Or the other one is that the municipality says, okay, well, we need to clean this up. And so, and they may have to lean in financially to see what does that mean. The best news I've heard from the fire departments is this 50-50 firefighters draw has just changed everything.
Yeah.
It took a lot of pressure off of them. Some of them are making more money on that than we would give them in an operating grant. I'm embarrassed to say, but that is in fact the case. And so a lot of them are putting money aside, and maybe they're accelerating their loan payments. Maybe they're paying things off a little bit faster. And that's all part of this. There's a very, very complicated process associated with that, but you've raised an excellent point. Like, these rates are there for a reason. They're there to pay a loan off.
Right.
That exists.
Exactly.
So you can't just ignore it, right? You have to deal with it.
Okay. Thank you. The next item, cost sharing, J-class roads. There's 2 or 3 attachments. I don't think we've, I guess, at this point, what we want to know is, do we go with any or we don't? But I think the recommendation is that we don't do any in the 24-25. And 24-25, we're already in there. Should this be 25-26?
They always ask a year in advance.
Oh, okay.
So they're asking this year for next year's plans. So
Okay.
even if you selected one of these roads, it may not be selected by the province. And if it is selected by the province, you'll pay 50% of the cost
Anyway,
that the province
yeah, exactly.
is looking at doing the roads. I'd say that based on the pictures that we've taken on the roads, and we are nowhere near an expert in J or other class roads, but we've indicated, that there doesn't appear to be any, I mean, this is a matter of opinion, some will disagree with my statement, but there are, like, many of these roads are very, very small roads with very low traffic, and so even if they are deteriorating, they are not deteriorating quickly.
Right.
So I don't think that there's a massive, there doesn't seem to be a massive need to address this. In a year of elections, kind of complicated. To Richard's point, are we going to make this commitment now, and how does that impact the new council? I will say this: if you're not prepared to do it this year, it happens every year. So you could certainly re-examine this request next year and make a different decision.
Because we get this every year. We have a choice to make every year.
We do. We've submitted 2 roads since I've been here. One was Birch Drive, which was accepted.
Yes.
The other was Riverside Drive, which was not accepted.
Right.
And so the other roads have not, there's not been any feedback from them in a significant way. Again, because these roads are super small. Some of them are dirt roads. They're really, there's not much to issues. But our pictures are a little dated. So, obviously, if you're interested in entertaining some of these roads, we get more information quickly to the province.
So there's a couple of options there for,
I'll move option 1, move that no J class subdivision road be submitted for cost sharing for 24-25.
moved and seconder. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Councillor Digdon.
Thank you. The only thing I'm looking at is, can some repairs be done to some of these roads? Like if we were to come up with some money next year or whatever, and not to get the whole road done. I'm just looking at some of these roads, I know personally, I drive on them personally. There is places that could be fixed right now, before you end up, Department of Transportation was here and they told us that they'd much prefer to know when a small bump starts and fix it then, instead of it grow to something that's 8 or 10 feet wide.
Warden, through you, the cost-sharing agreement is really like, it's like a capital retrofit situation. So if you have those types, I think that can be dealt with certainly well outside of this. It can be done through communicating with local DOT and seeing, if the load of gravel is needed or a hole needs to be fixed. They're typically really happy to do that. But this is a much larger request, so it wouldn't fall here. But if you do have those issues, we can certainly address them with DOT.
Yeah, thank you. 'Cause
Separately.
The only thing, and again, to what you had said, Mr. CAO, there's only been 2 roads done since you've been here. And what I'm looking at is if we don't start repairing some of these roads or getting some of them repaired or whatever, in 10 years or so, the next council that's going to be here, and that might have a whole pile of these roads that they're going to have to come up with money for.
Yeah.
And then you could be in quite a hardship.
Yeah, and this is more of a staff thing. We really have a tendency to this is not an area where we serve very much. Like, this is not really a core service of ours, but it comes up once a year, so it kind of hits us once a year. So we can endeavor to plan it a little bit better in the new year, to your point. Also, the last time we talked about this, Councillor Saunier mentioned, is this only J class roads? And the funny thing is the answer is no, it's not only J, even if it says J class cost sharing. It's smaller local roads that include I, G, H, and J, and the list of them they make no sense whatsoever. I think they were a bit of a political negotiation at the time, rather than an actual, these are all of the roads. So inside this assessment, all the roads that are listed, those are the roads that the province considers under this program.
Thank you, thank you.
Councillor Saunier.
Just to refresh on that, I think that roads you mentioned that were, that one was done was in Green Acres. That was the Birch Drive, am I
correct.
correct? And the other one was refused?
It was refused at the time.
And is that one on a priority list, so to speak, because it was requested before?
I don't have a priority list per se. What I do is what I did was, that particular road and the Birch Drive, they were both requests from residents to look into them.
Right.
Which is why they were brought to the attention of the province at the time. We're not really getting a lot of feedback from the community on these, so what we do instead is we take a look at the condition. And so if we think, you know, based on what we see, is it in terrible condition, or is it medium, or is it good? And that's the extent of what we've done. The best way to do that is to get the province to actually assess those roads, because we're not in the, I mean, we don't know what's under there.
Right.
So, you know, we can only take pictures and eyeball it and say, well, it's older now than it was 5 years ago. That's kind of deteriorating, you know?
Right.
So, yeah, we don't have a perfect system on that. The province has a much more sophisticated system, but we always find ourselves behind the 8 ball trying to catch up with what they're asking us. I think moving forward proactively is we would take a look at these and say, okay, province, can you do an assessment? Which ones, in your mind, require
Yeah.
adjustment? And then at that point, council can still make a decision to pick another road.
Yeah.
That's a political decision, but you're now armed with better information. Right now,
I'm
the
kind of
information.
revisiting what I
Yeah.
already mentioned before.
Yeah.
And as much as the residents of Green Acres want that road done, I understand how it works. However, all the other roads in my district, most of them are gravel, and that's dealt with a grader and all that stuff, and that's fine. But I did mention the East Comoes Hill Road, which that one is in real disrepair, and that one was, I believe, sand sealed at some point, and it needs to be redone. I don't know how the province looks at that, but I just wanted to mention that one more time. Thank you.
Thanks for mentioning that. So my suggestion would be that through your contacts with DOT, because it's not on this list, it must be on theirs. So if that's an issue with that road, then, you know, just like any other roads that are secondary roads that we have an issue with, we either deal with them here at the council table or individually through your contacts. You know, encourage making the phone calls to the number so that they can track the statistics around that. But it's not listed here, so it's not a cost share situation, so it means it's a provincial issue. Yep.
Okay, if there's no other questions, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, carried. Next item's correspondence and for information, letter regarding heritage site application, attachment. Letter to Minister of Justice from Shelburne County Mayors and Wardens. Correspondence from Southwest Paddlers Association, a grant that we gave them. It was just thank you letter that came to me. And we have certificate of recognition, NSFM. Somebody was not included, I guess, I should say, in the last NSFM.
The NSFM has changed the way that they're celebrating counselors and their recognition, so they're no longer having the big celebration at the conference.
Okay.
But we applied for one person who deserved to be recognized, and you just happen to have that piece of paper in front of you.
Piece of paper in my hand.
And you may want to do something with that. I mean, that's up to you, sir.
So it says Councillor Kathy Bohr. Presentation for recognition of 15 years of dedicated service. So I'll present it to you. There you go.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Speech.
Thank you. My pleasure. Actually, 16 years.
16 now.
16 now,
It was
yeah, it was
15.
15
That was
last year,
15 when
yeah.
we went there. We have something else, and I think I'm going to turn that,
Yeah, this one is a bit more of a surprise for some. Counselor Digdon started on this thunder. I don't want to take from his thunder, but maybe, like add on to the thunder.
Uh-huh.
Maybe that's lightning, I don't know. I too, from a staff's perspective, really respect everybody around this table. It is not easy to have the courage to put your name up for council. And Calvin is not here with us today, but he'll surely be receiving something. We did a little something for the three people who are not reoffering, and so it's not much, but we did put a little bit of thought in it. So first of all, it's I find it rather odd that that somebody thought that maybe you like Twinkies, and one of the reasons why I asked if she got it at the store, she said no. I was pretty sure I knew why, because I took the inventory that we had remaining at the store, and so this is actually for Patsy, so that you can chomp on that. So this one's we'll pass it out. You don't have to come get it. Also, we have 3 books here. Some of them one is Fish Draggers of Southwest Nova Scotia. As a longtime fisherman, we thought that Councillor Donaldson would really appreciate a book of this nature. It is done by Donald Doucette locally. Thought, as an avid reader, I'm banking on him reading his before the two of you. And we also have a little tumbler for each of you as well. It's just a really small thing, but at the end of the day, it's like there's really, I don't know what we could have done to say thank you for all the years. And Richard Donaldson in particular is the second longest seated serving councillor that the Municipality of Argyle has ever had. And so that's not a small feat. I see his picture in a lot of 4-year pictures that were over there. I saw them a lot. So for you, Councillor, for you, Councillor Surratt, is Surratt's Island, West Pubnico, and George's Bank my memories. So I thought because of Surratt's Island that you might be interested in that. And obviously with Calvin, we have Les Maisons de Pubnico West. So we know now he can spy on them because he now knows everybody that used to live there, and maybe he has a story or two to say about that. So each of you will have tumblers to go, and we have a little bit of just a tiny bit of treat at the end of the council meeting. So don't sneak out, Councillor Donaldson. There's just a tiny treat for all of you. So anyway, that was a really long description, but we really appreciate everything that you've done. So this is for Calvin.
do I get one if I get defeated?
I actually went fish dragging in our county. And used to talk on the beach, every dog all the time.
Twinkies. Okay. We okay?
All set.
Financial requests, there's none. Agenda topics for the next meeting, notice of motion. Anything, Guy? Question period, anything? Nothing came through? No in camera? Brings us to the end of our agenda. So the meeting is adjourned.